So today I thought I'd do a tutorial on the music editing side of creating a sermon bumper or really any project that you're working on. I never really edit any music inside of After Effects because it's a nightmare. I usually do all of it. I'll maybe usually export my main bumper out of After Effects and drag it into Premiere, and then do all my sound effects editing and music editing inside of Premiere. So I don't know if this is the best way to do it, but it's what I've kind of always done. So I figured I'd show some tips and tricks of how to get the best out of a stock music track. And really, you're trying to score. You're technically trying to score your video without having to hire a composer to create your own actual custom score. So there's so much more than just finding a great track and dragging it in and doing a fade in and fade out and cutting it off where the video ends. So I just figured I would show you some little tips and tricks that I use and figuring out how to make the best of the stock music track that you have. So here's a video that I'm replacing the music on, and I've gotten the track I already want to use, so I've imported it into Premiere. And I'm not going to go through too many of the basic steps of what Premiere does, but really just showing you what I do inside of Premiere. So I've got my track here, and I'm going to import it, and I think I actually already have it imported. Let's see. Yep, so right here, this is the track I'm going to use. So I'm just going to drag it in here. And the first thing I'm going to do is, I already kind of have an idea of what this track is made up of, but I want to hear all the little pieces that make up this track. So the fade ins, the big hits, the different sections of the track to see, where does it build, where does it get quiet. So we can go ahead and take a listen through and figure out where we want to start editing. So we'll take a listen here. We have a nice fade up there in the beginning. And it sort of does its little intro section here. Then it builds and starts creating that chord progression there. Now I can scrub through. I know there's a big hit right around here. So that's a really cool hit right there. That really changes the mood of the song. Then we have a nice little fade over here. Kind of drops off. Then it builds again back into that section and plays out pretty much to the end. This section doesn't have that rhythmic clapping and beating like the other section does. And you have your main fade off right there. So I got to figure out how do I want to make the best out of this track. Now, as far as the video goes, I do know that I have, you probably have a few moments in your video that you really need a musical change right there. So for me in this video, it is right when this cube flies in and explodes. So you can see it right here. This is really the turning point in the video. And it explodes right here. Boom. So that's where I want that music to ramp up. All right, so first let's figure out the first part of the song. And I've already done this actually. I've already edited the song. I just didn't save it, and then I'd have to redo it again. So I figured this would be a great time to show you what I do. All right, so turn my track back on here. I'm gonna cut off all this dead space in the beginning. Scoot this over. So everything here feels pretty good. So I'm gonna have it build. And now the camera's gonna zoom in, and that's where I want the music to change. So that's where it changed. So I need to move this up a little bit, and I'm just dragging my typical mouse and dragging it in. So right there, that camera kind of flies in, which is nice. I could use just a little bit more space, and we'll be adjusting this some. So now if you can hear the audio, it starts a little abrupt, so I'd probably add a little crossfade on that. I'm just going to right click on that audio track and hit apply default transition so it has a fade in from 0. Okay, so everything's good here. It moves through the song. So here's the problem, is now I got to figure out how do I get that big hit right here to land right there. So the way I did it is, first I'm going to cut this off, figure out where that hit is. I don't really want that hey right where that hits there. So I'm going to hit C on the keyboard for my blade and cut that right there. So this is the one I want. That's where I want the hit to be. So down here, let's go back and see where this cut is. A little bit farther here. So right there is where that's going to hit. So the problem is that doesn't actually hit on a beat. So let me listen to it again. So if I'm counting, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4. And so I'm not quite on a downbeat. But that's okay. So let's figure out where I can come out of this section here. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Stop. So here's where I'm going to put a fade, or sort of a new section. So I'm going to cut this off. And I got to figure out, I need to fade out and start really change my tempo right around here. I guess not really change the tempo, but cut out some beats in here somewhere. So I'm going to cut that, and now I need to add a fade. So, listening through the song, I have an idea of where these fades are and where they kind of drop off. And I just need to find the one that I like the most. So I'm going to go in here and listen to this track. 3, 4. So that one ends nice. So I think I'm going to cut this one. Okay, I got to get the right timing. Boom. So that right there. So I'm going to hit C on the keyboard and cut that. So I definitely want this fade. We'll drag it out for a little bit. I'm just going to cut this off. And that's the fade I want. And now, so here's a little trick that I've done before that, actually, hang on, we'll get to this in a second. I like this build here. Boom. So I'm going to take some of this. Cut right there. So I'm taking this build up as well. So I'm trying to make that moment as big as I can. Okay. Slide this down. This is another cool fade here. Oops. Okay, I gotta get the ending right. Okay, I'm gonna get it right in a second. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Cut that. Okay, so this is the track I want to use for the build. And here's a nice fade and some other fades here. I can take this out, take this out. So here's a nice fade down, and then the fade out here. So I'm going to put this fade down over here. We can take out this section. I can just move this out of the way. Don't need that anymore. And I'll put this fade up here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. So this should line up pretty evenly. See, is that what I did? Hang on. This is the one I want. This is for the end. So let's put this one right here. This one should have a smoother transition. Okay, I think we're a little off time, so it's good to count 4. Yeah, I think it's a little early. So what I need to do is add an extra, probably just an extra frame or two. So let's get really close, drag in, figure out where this hit needs to be. Still a little bit early. Maybe I need to add one to this side. That's feeling a little bit better. We might could do one more. Let's see. Again, keep that rhythm. As long as you're not missing a beat. 1, 2. That feels pretty good. We can add a little cross dissolve in there to make that super small. Let's listen again. That feels pretty good. For example's sake, we'll go with it. Okay, so here's the thing. If I were to count this out, it's not going to hit that right moment. So 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. It kind of lands right in the middle of a beat, so that's not really going to help me out. So we're going to cheat it a bit. So I need that big build to happen right there where that thing explodes. So I'm going to cut this off. Don't need that anymore. And I want to bring this back in. I believe this is the main hit here. Drag this up. That's not the one I want. Let's see. This is the one I want right here. Boom. Cut that off. Don't need that anymore. Drag this down. Line that right up there. Okay, so it feels like, what are you doing? This doesn't make any sense. You're off time. And that's okay. So here's what I did earlier. And maybe I'm breaking all kinds of rules, but I don't think so, because if you watch a movie, the tempo changes all the time, and they're cutting beats just so they can hit the right moment in the film. So we're kind of doing the same thing. Okay, so here's one trick I use a lot. I usually take a lot of fade ins and fade outs of the song, and I will reverse it and use it as kind of a crescendo. So I'm going to right click on this, and I'm going to go to speed and duration, and I'm going to do reverse speed and hit OK. So now it's going to ramp up, which is pretty sweet. So I can cut all this off, and it's going to ramp right up to that that original hit. So let's go right here. Oops. Close that back up there. Let's see. Okay, we have a little bit of the hay in there. I don't want that. Let's tighten that up some. Okay, so now we have this build, and I'm going to do a pretty long fade, I think. So I'm going to click on this bar here is my gain. So I'm going to click a little, hold down Control or Command and click that little keyframe. Drop another one right there. Pull it down. You can do Command click again and get a kind of a handle, so you can change the intensity there. So now we're getting somewhere. So we need to take out this rhythmic section here of this song. So let's see. I'm going to mute this for a second. So right here, it kind of starts that rhythm again, but I want to maybe fade that out. At least fade it out to where I don't really hear it anymore. And then I'm going to add that other one to kind of pick us back up into rhythm. So I'm going to drag this over. Let's see. I'm pretty bad about just making a mess of my timelines in Premiere. So maybe you have better options for staying organized. And with the PC, I really miss the scrolling horizontally. I need to find a better mouse. Okay, so let's solo this track and take a listen. So it's building constantly too. So I'm going to put that right here, and hopefully that will put us on time when that kind of twinkling sound in there. Boom. So I'm gonna do a I'm just gonna right click and just do a cross dissolve, fade that up a good bit, and I can move this down. Probably make this get a little louder than normal. No, too loud. Let's try this again. Okay. So let's take a listen. Let's unsolo all this. Everything's good to go. I'm gonna back up a bit, and let's take a listen. And hopefully it doesn't fall off. Just a moment here. Awesome. So that feels pretty good to me. So even though we completely stayed off time, it still didn't feel unnatural, which I think works, especially when you're watching the video and you see that cube explode. So now we need to just end it and be done. So let's see where we can figure out where this fade's going to be. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 4, boom. So I think here's where we will add the ending. So I'm going to hit C on the keyboard. I'm going to cut right there. And we need to add a fade. And we're really just going to add that same fade that we used at the for that reverse build there. So I'm going to stretch this out and figure out where that ending is. Here it is. So there's that one. We could also use this one. Let's see. We'll use this one here. Get the rhythm right. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Boom. Cut that. And delete all this. Drag this down. Let's zoom in here. 3, 4. Cool. So I'm going to right click on that and just do a little cross dissolve. Nice and small. Okay, and then I'm going to get out of there pretty fast. That fade is a bit long, and I don't want to sit on this logo too long and make it awkward. So I'm going to drop that pretty quick and click again, command click to get that little handle. And let's see how that sounds. And boom, we're out. So that's how I'll do it. So we could take a listen to the whole thing. I'll go ahead and do that, and just to give you an idea of the entire piece now that we're all done. And that'll be in the end of the video. So let's take a listen. It's a nice build here, and as the camera zooms in, we'll have a little music change, which feels right. A little introspective moment. Boom. Probably could clean that up a little bit. And we're off to the races. Fade out. Awesome. So let's see. We could clean this up just a tad bit. It feels a bit abrupt. So let's pull this down and take a listen one more time. Yeah, it feels like it's not quite hitting just right. It's not bad. Maybe we could cut some of this down a little bit. Let's see. Oops. Maybe a tad bit smoother. I think the other thing I did too was came in here, and instead of these just quickly ending, I did a super fast fade on those. So it's gonna drop that as soon as that hit happens. That way it's not from, you know, super loud to completely quiet. I could add a small fade here. Perfect. All right, that feels great. So that's about it. And then I just export and add it to my final project in After Effects, and that's all I do. So hopefully that was helpful. You know, I do that little reverse tracks a good bit. I don't really ever try to slow them down because that'll change the pitch a decent amount. So again, finding the right track again takes a long time. So I would listen to a ton of tracks to find one that felt like it was going to fit. Have this playing on a loop while I was searching through songs on the internet. And then, you know, pulling apart the best parts of the track and figuring out what really drives the story as best you can. So thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one. Bye.